I just wanted to make a video about my hair and how amazing it is. Just got a haircut today. Check it out. Last week, King interviewed me. King is Elliot Hulse, my boss, and we did a very interesting video about how the brain gets rewired, how character changes through, the title of the video is Brain Science for Bodybuilding. But ultimately, that video enabled me to realize the ultimate linchpin, the ultimate difference between where I was 6 months ago and where I am today. And the answer to that is strength training. Now, a lot of you don't know what the hell strength training is. In a nutshell, it is using compound movements. Now, obviously, you can become stronger in many ways. There's thousands of ways to becoming strong, but the way I've been doing exercise over the last 6 months or so is compound movements, group fitness, a lot of the stuff that we do here at Strength Camp. And after this video, I started thinking, what actually has enabled a transformation in my character? What has enabled a transformation in other people's characters that I know that are my friends who do strength training? And some of you who do strength training through various exercises, various ways, that could also be mental ways, practices, meditations that you do. But those of you who do that, you might have realized that squatting, deadlifting, bench pressing, lunging, all of these compound movements that require large muscles may make your attitude change. They make you feel more positive. And ultimately, doing them enough will rewire your brain to the extent that you will transform your character permanently. Now, as you know, I'm Doc Testosterone, and a lot of what I talk about is testosterone. So in this video, there will be discussions of testosterone receptors. There will be discussions of the different types of exercises that ultimately enabled me to get rid of poisonous, toxic friends that were ruining my life, and also enabled me to understand who I am deep down inside. So, watch this video if you're interested in how the brain gets rewired, sensory connections, motor connections, and how all that relates to you working out every day. And if you're not working out, this video will probably most likely motivate you to start lifting if you can. Now, obviously, if you have some problems, your doctor has told you not to lift heavy and so on and so forth, there's also ways to strength train under those circumstances. So let's get started. The ultimate definition for me in transformation of character is growing stronger, mentally, physically, emotionally. And the ultimate example of that is understanding one's own value. Because understanding one's value is a necessary trait for survival, is a necessary trait for surviving in a tribe and to thrive in the world today. That's why a lot of women, if you ask them, what is the ultimate factor, feature, personality that you look for in a guy, a lot of them say confidence. Confidence is when you know your self-worth. Now, obviously, a lot of people will fake it, and the girl will know. So, what does all this have to do with strength training? Well, let's take a step back and think about the brain. Okay, now, as you know, I'm a neuroscientist. I studied at McGill University. That's where I got my PhD from. And one of the founders of this field, which figured out where in the brain there are certain areas which correspond or map to different areas of the body. Okay, now I talked about a little bit of this in the video with Elliot, with king. So you can look at that for some information, but let's go a bit more detail here. So there's something in the brain known as the somatosensory system. It maps to different areas of the body. So if I touch you at a certain area, there's gonna be a part in the brain, in the somatosensory system, which will correspond to that area that was touched. So one of the founders of this field, which is Wilder Penfield, went to McGill University, and actually one of our streets is named after that doctor, that neurologist, as well as neurosurgeon. He also did some research on the motor pathways. So when you do a certain type of movement, be it a squat, a deadlift, you will activate different areas of the brain in the motor cortex, area M1, which correspond to that part of the body. Okay, so for example, if you're doing a squat, you're gonna use your quads, you're gonna use your glutes, hopefully use your glutes too, and a lot of your core, even your shoulders. So there's gonna be motor pathways that will go from your brain, from the motor cortex, from the frontal part of your brain, to this body part to activate that neuromuscular connection. Now, a lot of this gets fucked up, right? Because we are not used to doing these compound primal movements in our lives. Our ancestors, in the caveman days, were doing these. They were lunging. They were looking for food. They were squatting. There were no chairs back then. So these primal movements, that's why they're called primal. These existed in caveman days, and they did not have to go strength train because they were doing it all day. When they were hunting for animals, when they were gathering berries and other fruits and vegetables. Now, how does that work exactly? Okay, let's go even deeper. So, in the brain, there are neurons. Neurons have connections. As you trigger or activate the somatosensory cortex, which is for sensing activity, so it's a afferent connection, it goes from the body to the brain. Or if you are triggering motor activity from the brain down, so it's efferent connection, then that neuron or that set of neurons which are in charge of that particular finger or toe or muscle will become stronger as you do more of that activity. A very easy example of that is learning a new language or learning a new musical instrument. They say that doing these two things in particular will rewire your brain more than anything else because of the vast connections of different systems in the brain associated with these activities. You're learning a language, you're hearing, you're speaking, there's memory, there's emotions, there's so much out there. Now, why is it that for me, personally, it's strength training that allowed me to understand my own self-worth, rewire my brain, and transform my character? It's simply because that is the one feature, the one activity that I have not done in my life until now. So I've exercised, more or less played some sports. I've eaten pretty well, especially in the last couple of years. I've also gotten a lot of academic achievements, a lot of intellectual achievements. But the one thing that was missing was this primal movement, this survival instinct triggering physical fucking movement was missing. That's it. Because I was eating nutrition. My nutrition was pretty good. I was eating very nutritiously. See, here's the thing. When we're growing up, right? And we participate in, let's say, spelling bees. King in the video, talked about me participating in spelling bees, geography bees, computer programming competitions. All of these things I've done and excelled at, getting straight A's, winning chess tournaments. All of these are not caveman activities. These are not primal activities. Your brain doesn't really know when you've won an Angry Bird game on your computer or you've won. It knows because it correlates those activities with those primal movements. That's why video games are so addictive. That's why sports are so addictive. There are mirror neurons in the brain that are associated with these activities. We can talk about that in another video, but in a nutshell, whatever activities you're doing in life, your brain will do its best to correlate it with some primal activity. So for example, porn, your brain thinks that you're actually having sex with all of these girls when you watch porn. And that's why a lot of even kids, teenagers have erectile dysfunction because they're watching porn and they're not able to get it up when they're with their girlfriend or with a real live human mate. So if we get back to strength training, that is the one difference in my life until now. I'm almost 34, turned 34 next month, and it took me 33 years to realize this. And listen, strength training will not just allow you to form these connections and become stronger and be able to realize your self-worth by transforming your character. That's not all it does. It also allows you to understand what you lack at. What are the activities that you need to do to become stronger? So for example, in me, realizing what muscles I haven't used in life, right? For example, I talked about in the video with King, the glute max. I figured out that wasn't being triggered, that wasn't being activated. So strength training allowed me to understand my weakness. So that is a big part of it. When you stretch after going through a intense exercise protocol for the day or the night, when you stretch, you realize what parts of your bodies are tight. What parts of your bodies will harm your posture, right? Speaking of posture, one of my buddies in Montreal, Alex, asked me a brilliant question. He said, Farhan, is it true that parts of your body that correlate with different behaviors will also change through strength training? He asked me this question after watching the video that I did with King. And essentially, let me give you an example of what he's asking. If you work your chest muscles and those connections in the brain grow stronger because those synapses, those connections are becoming stronger and stronger. And as you know, if you've heard, cells that fire together wire together. If you have more questions about that, you want more details on the connections and how exactly synapses work, ask me, I'll be happy to answer. But Alex says, if you worked out your chest, would it be true that you're gonna become more proud? You're gonna become, because you're gonna stand up taller maybe, or there's connections in the brain that are associated with the limbic system, which is the emotional center of the brain. Is it gonna be where working out your chest will make you more proud because those connections? Now, that specific study hasn't been done. I looked it up. Sorry, Alex. However, if you just think logically, strength training is related to so many different parts of the brain, right? It's related to memory. You're gonna strengthen the memory parts of the brain. It's related to emotions because you're gonna be under a lot of stress, a lot of neuromuscular stress, a lot of taxing on your central nervous system. That emotional connection to the rest of your brain will allow you to have indirect ways of improving your pride or your confidence in yourself, right? So when I talked about gynecomastia in the video that I did with King, where if you get rid of man boobs, you will have a character change. That's a specific example. But just by looking good, just by having other people look at you, and your brain itself knows that because you're doing these primal movements that you were doing millions of years ago, your ancestors were doing, cavemen were doing, your brain knows that you are able to survive more because you can do these squats and deadlifts and kill these animals, hunt these animals, and become alpha. So that is how it works. So Alex, sorry to say, the science won't show you that conclusively, and there's no methods. It'll be very hard to do this experiment because there are too many controls to handle, too many confounds. However, it does make sense if you look at it from a strength training perspective, because again, your brain understands, there is evidence you're showing that you can lift these heavy weights. And look, this is not just for men, it's for women too. In the caveman days, the alpha females, women that were strong, were leading the tribe. This is, of course, speculation. They were leading the tribe. They were the leaders. They were giving directions. They were giving orders to other women and men to perform certain things so the tribe can survive and thrive. So there you have it. Some insights on neuroscience, on strength training, and the one ultimate difference in my life from now and 6 months ago. So if you, let me touch on a little bit of testosterone. There are androgenic receptors all over the brain, in the limbic system, which again is where the amygdala is. This is the emotional part of the brain. In the prefrontal cortex, in the memory systems, there are testosterone receptors or androgenic receptors all over the brain. Now, a lot of those brain areas haven't been mapped yet, so we're going to find out even more about testosterone receptors. But essentially what happens is, as you undergo these strength training exercises, these receptors will receive testosterone, right? Because that's how receptors work. A neurotransmitter gets released from a synapse to the next cell, the next neuron, and that's how connections happen in the brain, from one neuron to the next. So by doing strength training, you will not only increase the receptors, the number of receptors in the brain, but you will release testosterone at a more efficient level. The magnitude, the quantity of how much testosterone is being released, triggered, synthesized will increase. And thereby, because there are testosterone or androgenic receptors all over the brain, and remember, the brain is very well connected all over. Emotion, memory, execution, vision, auditory, all the sensory systems, all the motor systems, these are all connected to each other, including the subcortical areas, the areas below the cortex, which are more primal. For example, your appetite, your arousal, those areas. For example, the hypothalamus is an area which is a big part of how testosterone is synthesized. Go look at my testosterone synthesis videos to get more information on that. But if you do these exercises, you will also boost testosterone. And by boosting testosterone, you will be able to not only have your masculinity features that you're really, obviously all of us care about: erection, sex drive, muscle mass, getting rid of your belly fat, getting rid of your bitch tits. But because the brain is so vastly connected, you will also transform your character. by boosting testosterone. Now, for more videos, subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share this shit with your friends, and let me know what you think, especially with the haircut, the new one. You know what? Go to www.doctestosterone.com and subscribe. That is how you will receive my exclusive 18 factors killing your testosterone today. You need to watch that video ASAP and realize what in the environment is killing your testosterone and get rid of that shit ASAP. So subscribe, again, www.doctestosterone.com. And as always, thanks for listening. I will see you next time.